Hello, everyone. In today's screencast, we're going to look at topic, purpose, and thesis. These are skills that we need when we read critical academic articles. In today's lesson, we're going to look at effective and efficient ways of previewing theoretical articles, the structural elements of the articles, as well as the language authors use to help us see these aspects of the topic, purpose, and thesis. So the first thing that we want to do when we get an article is to preview it. And we want to identify as quickly as possible the topic of the article, the purpose of the article, as well as the author's main claim or message, its thesis. So let's take a look at the topic. In general, the topic is what the article is about in general. It doesn't make a claim of any sort, and it's usually very general. It talks about body image or media and eating disorders, or perhaps the ethics of biometrics. It's a very general point. So where do we find it? Well, usually we can find it in the topic, in the title. The topic is usually in there. It's the quest for identity in the 21st century. It's heart disease and changing attitudes. It's nature and nurture. It's a debate. So we're looking for what the article is about. We can also sometimes find it in the introduction in the first or second paragraph. And it's usually a very short noun phrase. Breakfast, in other words, a healthy alternative for breakfast. We usually don't have a complete sentence. Now let's take a look at the purpose. In other words, why is the author writing the article? It helps us understand where he's going, what we can expect. It helps the reader focus on what to pay attention to. We need to pay attention to the language so that we can quickly identify what the purpose is. And the purpose is usually stated in a verb, in a directive verb. And directive verbs are these: to discuss, to analyze, to identify, to look into, to explore, etc. So here we have an example. This article is going to discuss 3 aspects of healthy eating. So we know right from the beginning to look for 3 aspects and that the author is going to discuss them rather than perhaps define them or analyze them. So if we look at the purpose, it helps us see that outline. In other words, discuss 3 aspects, present the traits and their reasons, identify key challenges, and discuss new directions. So we know what the author is trying to tell us. We also can present it in a way that we can visualize and we can see where he's going. So the purpose, this article gives examples of changing ideals over time. It explores possible explanations for the relationship between obesity rates and the prevalence of eating disorders. Here we have examples, and identifies possible avenues for prevention and change. And we can create a graph of this, or a graphic organizer. So we have gives, explores, identifies. What does he give? What does he explore? What does he identify? And we can see which one of these he's going to go into deeper information. Obesity rates, prevalence, and here we have examples of eating disorders. So when we have an article with more than one purpose, if we put together a graphic organizer like this, then we can begin to see the article before we even begin to read it. So again, what do we want to do? We want to look for the verb, and we add to. Now let's take a look at the thesis. The thesis is the writer's claim about the topic. There's a relationship between the thesis and the topic. But the thesis goes beyond the topic. It doesn't just say what it's about, but it actually gives the author's claim or belief or opinion about that topic. It's proof that the topic is legitimate, that it has an argument to it. So how do we identify the language? Well, first of all, we're looking for verbs that show us that there's a relationship between more than one thing. Exposure to mass media is correlated with, in other words, there's a relationship between mass media and obesity. We can also look and see that we have articles like argue, should, must, there is. Again, it's showing us a relationship between things. And the words like should, must, there is, and other subjective verbs, verbs with modals, show us what the author is trying to claim. It is, in effect, a macro topic sentence. It has the topic, and it also tells us what he wants to believe. It's a complete sentence. It has a subject and a verb, and it's often more than just a simple sentence, but a complex sentence. It summarizes the conclusions that the writer has made about the topic. So where do we look for it? First of all, we're going to look for it probably towards the end, not in the beginning. And we see that in that thesis statement, there's going to be an echo or repetition of something in the title. They'll use the same words or the same phrase, or some brief statements of the argument. So let's look at an example. Despite what other scholars have said, I think this, whatever it may be, is actually the case because I have found this and this and this. So that it summarizes what he believes. I believe this because I have evidence of this. So now it's time for you to practice and see if you can find purpose, topic, and thesis. Good luck.